Oh, shift! You're listening to the O Shift podcast. Employees are asking to do more with less. AI is giving them new capabilities.
We're basically holding on for dear life, right? As they say, across the board, we're all adopting it. AI can be great, but if it's too complex for you to use it, it's worthless. At this point, where it's at least in our sector, in our industry, industrial manufacturing sector, is an accelerant.
All right. Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Rick Watson, and this is the O Shift podcast where AI and SaaS collide. Today's guest is Sayyah, the CEO of Aleran, which is a B2B e-commerce platform which is built specifically for industrial manufacturers. They help unify complex sales processes through things like CPQ, which is configure, price, quote, portals, PIM, and order management on top of ERP systems. And so Alex, has been through some of this journey and would love to welcome into the show.
Thank you for having me on the show. I'm super excited, and I apologize about the background noise. If you hear that, that's the neighbor's gardener. But I'm glad to be here. Excited to speak with you, Rick, and it's been a very, very intense period of time, at least for our customers in the industrial manufacturing sector. They are ready to go and primed to make some digital transformation changes for their businesses.
Yeah, no, it makes sense, and it sounds like a lot of your customers are making changes, and it's sort of parallels in some way how Aleran has made changes throughout its history, starting from serving sales agencies to now industrial manufacturers. Can you talk to me a little bit about kind of the different versions of Aleran that you've seen in your history?
So as with most software companies, I think we had a pivot or a rebirth, as I like to say. Originally, the company's thesis was focused around solving sales problems sales problems around sales order management for mom and pop sales agencies, right? Mm-hmm. These are agencies that are repping CPG products, like Yankee candles, for example, and they're selling it into, Nordstrom's and places like that. They needed a tool to basically be able to, manage that sales order, make sure that their sales agents got commissions, mm-hmm. etc. So that was the original kind of thesis for the business. The challenge with that is that these operators are really mom and pop operators. They're generally mm-hmm. Small organizations. A lot of their sales agents, sales representatives are 1099s. And they're more like lifestyle businesses. And there's still a lot of complexity, though, with that, because these companies still have to integrate with their manufacturer's ERP. So just imagine low price point product that we had at the time with a complex implementation. So just the revenue mix wasn't there right. for us to really scale. Then we said, okay, great. Well, let's go further into that food chain, still solving for the sales problem. Let's go directly to those manufacturers and see what their pain points were. And then we went to these CPG manufacturers and we realized that, some of them already had B2B covered. They were using B2C software like mm-hmm. eCommerce or Magento, and they were kind of trudging along, and their pain points weren't as great as we would like them to. And then, we engaged with Gartner and Forrester and some of the other players and researched the space. And we said, where are the greenfield opportunities here? Where are the right. opportunities for us to really make a mix, still being true to who we are, which is a sales platform, right? And we came across this underserved market with industrial manufacturers. These were people, and people being companies that are selling, component level things that go into much larger things. They're very unsexy. These are name brands that no one has heard of. Right. However, they're still doing $100 to $1 billion in sales every year. But they're underserved, and we thought that would be really where the rebirth would happen for Aleran. So we really spent, the greater part of 2023 to really build out part of 2023 and early 2024 to build out the platform that we have today, which is this kind of all-in-one platform that's streamlining sales for these industrial manufacturers, right? So, like you mentioned earlier at the top of your show, we include order management, AI catalog embedded buying, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit further, PIM, which is product information management, storefronts, which is e-commerce, portals, etc. So, we came in with a big toolkit, a platform that kind of follows our customers, being the industrial manufacturers, customers across all their sales journeys, and that's what our focus was.
Yeah, I mean it's super interesting, and part of the podcast here is to sort of like lift the covers behind the scenes a little bit and see how Aleran runs, especially in the face of the fact that employees are asking to do more with less. AI is giving them new capabilities, both to yourself as a CEO, but also to the leaders of your various teams. Was there a moment where you felt like, we've been doing business, like, forget the market side. Obviously, I understand your shift from sales agency to manufacturer, but just even how you run the business, you're like, we can't keep doing things the same way we have been.
No, absolutely. I mean, there's a healthy mix. I mean, within Aleran, we have, an executive team that are kind of guys my age, a little gray haired, and then we have younger employees that are keeping us honest. The way they think, the way they do business,
Right.
is very, very different. They question and challenge us on a daily basis. So a lot of my time is as a CEO is spent, making sure that I enable my team to make all the decisions they need. And part of that is by enabling them to have the tools that they need to make these decisions. And we use AI on a daily basis. Our marketing organization uses it to streamline messaging and content that we push out. Our sales team uses it for research, in researching opportunities. I'm sure our product team uses it to a great extent as well. So across the whole organization, we're adapting, and we're allowing our younger, more tech savvy employees help guide us to where we need to go, and that's really been refreshing and helpful to us.
Got it. So it sounds like across the board on the messaging, I mean, we're talking about something that used to be a group of people in a room. Now you're bouncing ideas off of these tools. Has the workflow changed, or is it a similar workflow? It's just speeding that along?
I mean, everything has changed, right? We're a lot more dynamic now. Things aren't done in committee as much as they used to at this organization earlier on, or even at previous organizations that I was in. It's much more, we have an hypothesis, whether it's in marketing or in sales, or even on the product side. We stress tested leveraging AI, and then we're just much more quick to make changes and adapt. And that's been very, very helpful to us in the business.
And to kind of go beyond that, or at least one layer down, do you have a preferred tool, and why? Did you test a number of the different ones, like ChatGPT versus Claude versus Gemini, or any of these, or you just picked one you were comfortable with?
So I use ChatGPT personally because I'm not adventurous. If we surveyed my organization, we're about 50 people strong worldwide, and I would say you probably get 20 or 30 different answers to that question.
Wow.
But from the guy that eats the same lunch every day, I use the same AI tool every day. For a lack of, I'm not very creative in that regard, but it works for my purposes because I'm a lot more generally focused.
Right.
But I know that there's certain tools that certain people on the team use that are much more tuned with what their focus is.
And do you have any internal metrics or ways to share information within the company about how your team is using AI so that people can learn from each other? Or is everyone kind of on their own picking up new techniques?
I think it's a combination of that. We definitely have a great feedback loop within the organization. Each team has daily huddles and stand-ups. We have a weekly company meeting where we talk about, AI as well as other things, the other initiatives in the organization. So we're very, very good about, sharing if we come up with something new or something exciting internally. So I think it's a combination of trial and error, sharing with your cohort, and just word of mouth within the organization. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, given the fact that you mentioned about the tenure of your team and the gray hairs around the room before. But have you seen resistance internally in the organization about using some of these new tools, or is it more the other way? Like the team is pushing you, and you're trying to make sure hold them back a little bit, or
No, actually,
institutionalize?
I think what we're doing is we're basically holding on for dear life, right? As they say, and we're proceeding with all systems are a go. We're not getting any pushback, really. I mean, I think that it's less comfortable for me, to see to use AI. I don't trust it as much
Right.
as some of our younger employees, but that's also because I just think I'm a lot more suspect of technologies,
Right.
being in this space for over 20 plus years. Um, but no, I mean, I think, across the board, we're all adopting it. But what we're also doing is we're also triangulating. So we're using the information that we get from AI as one source. And then we try to back up that source
Yeah.
with other sources. In some cases, we use multiple AI streams, multiple AI platforms to double check. And because there's a lot of noise, a lot of residual information
Yeah.
that's not necessarily correct. So we do triangulate a lot, and we go from there. And I think that what it's done is it's made us a lot more efficient. We're saving a lot of time. So I believe our teams are able to be a lot more productive, which is very, very helpful to us.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine the productivity component is super valuable. You mentioned triangulation. I wanted to dive into that a little bit, have you tell me a little bit more, because I think we've all seen examples where what AI tells you just isn't so. And it may not match the actual market. It may not actually match a real customer who has their own struggles day to day. And so, where do you find that balance between, I don't know if it's the art and science, because I think you could have science before AI, but
Sure. Sure. I think the whole Jack Walshian theory, and I'm really aging myself here, is we trust but we verify.
mm,
So that's a lot of what we do. So we kind of trust it as a source, and then we test it against other sources and also against kind of what we're hearing in the market, because we still have a sales organization, we have a product management organization, we're talking to customers on a daily basis, so we're triangulating all that. But what it does is, I'll tell you one thing that it's done for me personally,
mm,
is that I no longer look at a blank sheet of paper.
mm.
Remember, long years ago, let's say you want to
Yeah.
write a white paper, or you want to write a note out to someone, or you want to go engage with a customer or an analyst, and you look at a blank sheet of paper, or you look at a blank screen, and you're like, oh my God, how is this going to start, right? Well, now with AI, you can just enter that into the prompt. It'll give you a starting point, and that in itself, for me at least, would save me hours. How many times have you, wrote the first words of anything, and then just, you got the dot dot dot, and then you go back, you leave your desk, and you think about it, and you get back to it the next day, and then you would get, distracted, and so I feel like our timelines have come in a lot. We've been a lot more
Right.
efficient because we're no longer looking at blank sheets of paper, which I think in itself, just
Yeah.
that alone, makes it so helpful to us.
No, it's interesting. And you mentioned about product, and I think there are a lot of people using AI in product development, whether tool is Claude Code or OpenAI Codex. How, and in particular, I've heard a lot about prototypes. You meet with a customer, you want to show them an idea, and you don't want to get a team of people to have to build for a few weeks just to generate a mock-up of what something might look like. Are there elements that you're helping co-create with customers using AI, and how is that?
I mean, that's probably a better question for Tarak Patel, who's our SVP of products. But I do believe that we're leveraging it internally for definitely for kind of UI stuff that we're doing around the platform with new enhancements that we're doing. We're doing it in putting together a lot of requirement documentation that we do on the fly. So, we're very nimble. We're always, changing and iterating. And, we have a product release every 2 weeks because we're SaaS. So our customers always get the latest and the greatest. And in that process, we're always leveraging AI to streamline things. So hopefully that answers your question. But
yeah, no, I think it's great. And clearly adoption is a slow thing, but then it also happens very quickly. And I know a lot of founders are always, probably including yourself, it's always like, can we move faster? What's the next best thing? So if you had to sort of grade yourself across customer service support, product, sales, and marketing, like what grade would you give yourself? And what advice would you give to other CEOs that maybe aren't satisfied with their own grades to do and improve?
Well, generally, I always start with a B, and strive for the A, and then do gap analysis if I'm getting closer to a C. But I think that we're doing a really good job, in at least being open and perceptive to it. Again, we're very early on as far as kind of what we're doing with AI. It's seeping into all of our business. We're also using AI in our platform for our customers. So I think that if I was to give a grade for how our platform delivers AI for our customers, I definitely would give an A. We have, AI shopping assistants. We have a recommendation engine for our customers in the platform. We have, AI powered, a portal that basically converts, PDF catalogs into shoppable e-commerce sites. So we do a lot of AI for our customers. We do it really, really well based on the feedback that we receive from them on what they need to do. They need to move faster. They need to be more engaged with their customers. They need to sell more fast and have better data to provide more real-time pricing for their customers. So we do that great.
Right.
I say, are we great at personally using, AI, within our business to make these decisions? I think we're a solid B. We're getting there. You asked me that question probably 6 months ago. I would say, oh my God, at the beginning, I'm not even sure we have a grade. But we're improving on a regular basis, and I think that's the beauty of kind of technology as a whole, as well as kind of where we're all going, is that we're not standing still. We're moving forward, and sometimes by moving forward, you try a new tool, and that really didn't work out for you. You try and you learn from it, and then you go and use a different tool. And I feel like we're in that process right now.
Yeah, I mean, and I think speaking of tools, you mentioned the product and your usage, and I think the other side of that is not just your usage, but customer adoption. And we're talking about a customer base which hasn't always been the most technology forward.
Sure.
And, they haven't needed to be. Does that affect how you think about introducing AI into your product? How you talk about it to your customers? What's their reaction been?
So I think their reaction is that they have FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. It's very true, right? So these are not, very technology forward thinking, companies. Some of these organizations.
I mean, how much tech do you need to build a little part? I'm sure, like the engineering behind it is very fascinating.
Right. No. I mean, and a lot of you have to understand that these customers' personas are very interesting, right? These guys are entrepreneurs. They've some of them are like 20, 50, 100-year-old, family owned businesses. Some of them are even publicly traded, but but all of them started with an entrepreneur who's phenomenal at building this thing that they built, right? They're not great at adding tech to basically what they need, right? And they've all been through an ERP implementation, and ERP implementations, as we all know, can be super painful.
It's a lot of fun.
So therefore, they're already like, they flinch as soon as you add another layer of tech
Right.
to whatever they've done with the ERP. But our philosophy, and it has always been empathy towards the customer. So we don't build AI. I mean, our platform doesn't have AI for the sake of AI. Everything that we do has a purpose behind it. So if we go across, how we use NLP, right? We use it so that our customers can chat and have a shopping assistant, right? So we're trying to put real life scenarios and build for that, right? And AI can be great, but if it's too complex for you to use it, it's worthless. So we take a very pragmatic approach with our customers and how we roll out our AI for them. Like suggestive selling, driving sales with AI powered, suggestions. Like if you bought product A, B, and C, here's some other things that you should buy, or some other parts that may fail that you should buy in advance. And these are all things that we do that are real and that are necessary today. And there are things that you would do with a salesperson in the field, but now you can do that with AI. So you could be that much more efficient and address the need of that many more customers. So again, it goes back to the word empathy, which is kind of what our DNA is. And we use AI in an empathetic way.
Yeah. And I think you find a lot of salespeople who are frightened is probably the best word I could use about technology, because they think, oh, we just want everyone to use this platform. And what is my role going to be? I have this book of business that I've been managing for 15, 20, sometimes even longer years in a niche industry. How do you overcome that trepidation about like, oh, I used to use this ERP system. I know how painful that's been, not only to get there, but probably to input on a day-to-day basis. They might have an order that's faxed in and then somebody needs to key it in a PDF. But their life needs to get better, because at the end of the day, they need to serve their customers better. Right. But they may not realize it yet. So like there is a gap to overcome.
Right. So how I would answer that is that, we get that question a lot, right? And we get that pushback. And the reality is that I believe that sales is personal. Every sale is personal. Whether you're buying a gyro for something that goes into, some type of avionics, or you're buying, a cup of coffee at Starbucks, it's still a personal sale. So what I get to and how we pitch it to our customers is, look, let us help you with the administrative stuff of sales, right? The stuff that isn't necessarily adding value to the relationship you're building with that book of business, like you mentioned. If you have a 15-year book of business, right, that you've worked on developing,
right,
we can help you take all that administrative time and streamline that with AI so that you can be that much more efficient and build out a better relationship face-to-face or in conversations with your customers. So I don't think we're trying to replace people. I just think that what we're doing is we're trying to make them more efficient and make them do what they're better at, and giving them more time to do that, and take the places where they're weaker, whether it's administrative or technology-wise, and do two things. One is streamline that effort, but also more importantly, it's also make that more secure, safe, and exact and correct. Because we all know this. When you're transacting and you're doing sales orders and you're doing it via fax or via writing it down or via emails, things get lost in translation, right? Errors occur. And, if you're buying, some complex machinery, you can't return that. It's not
Those are big mistakes.
Yeah, these are mistakes that cost the business a lot of money. there are mistakes that cost goodwill with the customer. In some cases, it costs the customers money too, because they need that system to sell what they're selling. So, taking the error, equation out and making that, more fault proof, and building that relationship and giving you more time to build that relationship is really what we strive to do.
Yeah, I mean, and it sounds like you take that same attitude internally, where AI is, I would say, more of an accelerant, but not a decision maker. And so I just wanted to see if, because I think different CEOs have different philosophies. They're trying to replace whole departments, or they're trying to things, but that's not the approach you're taking.
No.
And I'm trying to get underneath sort of that stance by you. Do you think that will never evolve, or do you think that's just sort of like the best place for it, given where I think the technology is now?
I mean, I read a lot of articles. I've seen things in the Wall Street Journal. I've seen things on LinkedIn and other places where companies, CEOs have tried. They've gone and said, okay, I'm going to try to replace all these people with AI. And so far, none of them have had good results.
Mm.
And so I don't think AI is going anywhere. But also, I don't think. Let me rephrase. I don't think people are going anywhere.
Right.
I think AI at this point, where it's at least in our sector, in our industrial manufacturing sector, is an accelerant, and is a safety net, for our customers' digital transformation efforts. And I think that's kind of where we're at. I don't
Right.
think we are at a place where we're going to see a lot of people being replaced per se.
Right.
And by the way, I'm a big fan of people getting replaced, because if you can replace people or by training them up to do something different, I mean, look at the travel industry as an example, right? I remember my parents booking a trip, by calling their travel agent and going to a travel office and getting those little tickets. Remember, with the carbon red? I'm making myself
Yeah.
right now. But now, I go on, Delta. Shout out to Delta. I want free tickets. But I, go to Delta and I book my travel myself, right? So have I really replaced people? Probably not. These people are now doing other things that are much more efficient. So, I think that there's a lot of room for improvement. I think that things haven't shaken out completely yet, but I think that change is good.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the theory behind the change is good. Sometimes the elements aren't always good in the moment. Are there any downsides that you've noticed to you and your teams using AI? Or like, this is actually slower than I used to do things, or are there any warnings for other people that you've seen, or is it just all like just a matter of step by step how you use it?
I mean, I think that early on, when we first kind of went down this path, we trusted it a lot more
Mm,
than we should have. And then we would get lukewarm results out of it. And we're like, well, that's kind of a bummer. But by, doing it over and over again and not like giving up on AI, but by really trying to implement it and holding the bull by the horns and trying to infuse it in our business on a daily basis, we realize that we're a lot more efficient now, because we again use it as just yet another source of information, something that replaces that white screen in front of you, right?
right.
So if we take that mentality, which we have, I think it's been very helpful.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I think it gives some lessons to the audience to sort of take things step by step, not try to overdo AI initially, especially when you're not comfortable with it. I mean, in my personal experience, I find that if you have to feed AI a lot of data before it starts making some sense.
Right. Right.
Otherwise, human language is so imprecise that there's a context that whoever wrote that AI is assuming that may be different than your own assumptions. And
Right.
so unless
Yeah.
you're giving them your assumptions and exactly what you're trying to get out of it, you may not get what you expect.
Right. And there's a tonality to it, and
Mm.
what's kind of crazy is that, I remember like asking my dad a question. right? And the question, any question, it could be like, why is the sky blue, right? And he could make up any answer,
Right.
and there would be no way for me to validate it. Unless I went to the library, used the Dewey Decimal System, and kind of came up with something, right?
Yeah.
Then I remember my kids asking me questions, and then I would have to come in and they would fact check me on the fly. But they would Google everything and say, no, Dad, that's BS, right? So that happened, right? And now I believe that this generation, kind of in business where we're at right now, or now I have two younger kids. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Wow.
And I have older kids as well. And I can see my son Samuel, who's 4 now, just going to a voice prompt and saying, "Is my daddy full of S?" And something would respond, "Yes, he is." He doesn't know what he's talking about. And I feel like that's the way we have to use it, right? We have to it's iterative, it's getting better, and it's keeping us more honest, which is great. And by keeping us more honest, it's not completely true, but at least it helps guide you in the right direction.
Right.
I think it's saving everyone a lot of time, to be honest.
No, I think that's great. And I really appreciate the fact that we've been able to chat about this today. Are there any parting words for the audience in terms of adopting it in their products for their customers or in the organizations?
I mean, if I was speaking to my customers, right, my customer types, the industrial manufacturers, I would tell them that, look, they really need to start taking the bull by the horns, because what's been happening is just in our personal lives, right? The Amazonification of kind of how we shop in our personal lives is seeping into the business world, right? And no one's waiting for you, and people are impatient in general. And if they can find another source with the product that they want in real time, they're going to do that. And you're going to be left at the side of the road, and that's the reality. So I say embrace the change, right? It is painful in many, many cases, but by embracing it, you make it less painful, if that makes sense. And I want people to, I don't think that AI is the boogeyman. I think it's a good thing. And I think if you put it in context and you take your time with it, I think that, it will be for the betterment of you personally as well as your organization.
I think that's good advice. Taking it slow, not necessarily over trusting it initially, but taking it step by step and learning how to implement it and see results in your organization is really kind of the way forward. So I really want to thank you a lot, Alex, for sharing your wisdom in this podcast, and look forward to continuing to see the development of Aleran in the future.
Thank you, Rick. It was a pleasure speaking with you. And I feel like I aged myself a little bit on this podcast, but I feel that it was for the betterment of
Hey, I remember the Dewey Decimal System too, so I don't know if that'll age me too.
Yeah. I don't even know I don't think people know what that is anymore.
It's not a thing. And then we're going to go to the Library of Congress system. So
they're going to chat GPT saying, what is a Dewey Decimal System? No, that's all good. Rick, it was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for the time. I really enjoyed it as well. Looking forward to, seeing and viewing all your content that's out there, which is great. So I'm
awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we appreciate you. And for everyone here at RMW Commerce, if you're a software or commerce leader kind of working through similar changes, whether you're wrestling with kind of legacy systems or implementing AI in your organization, we just want to be a place for people can come and learn and talk about problems. So feel free to drop me a direct message or message me on LinkedIn. You might be our next guest. So thanks a lot here from the OShift podcast. This is Rick Watson.